Hi everyone. 2 years ago, my life changed forever. My wife Kelsey and I welcomed our daughter Leela into the world. Now, becoming a parent is an amazing experience. Your whole world changes overnight, and all of your priorities change immediately. So fast that it makes it really difficult to process sometimes. Now you also have to learn a tremendous amount about being a parent, like, for example, how to dress your child. This was new to me. This is an actual outfit. I thought this was a good idea. And even Leela knows that it's not a good idea. So there is so much to learn and so much craziness all at once. And to add to the craziness, Kelsey and I both work from home. We're entrepreneurs. We run our own businesses. Kelsey develops courses online for yoga teachers. I'm an author, so I'm working from home. Kelsey's working from home. We have an infant, and we're trying to make sure that everything gets done that needs to be done. Life is really busy. A couple of weeks into this amazing experience, when the sleep deprivation really kicked in, like around week 8, I had this thought. It was the same thought that parents across the ages, internationally, everybody has had. I am never going to have free time ever again. Somebody said it's true. It's not exactly true, but it feels really true in that moment. This was really disconcerting to me, because one of the things that I enjoy more than anything else is learning new things. I love getting curious about something, diving in, fiddling around, learning through trial and error. Eventually, I become pretty good at something. Without free time, I didn't know how I would ever do that again. I'm a big geek. I want to keep learning things. I want to keep growing. So what I decided to do was go to the library, go to the bookstore, and look at what research says about how we learn and how we learn quickly. I read a bunch of books, I read a bunch of websites, and I tried to answer the question, how long does it take to acquire a new skill? You know what I found? 10,000 hours. Anybody ever heard this? It takes 10,000 hours. If you want to learn something new, if you want to be good at it, it's going to take 10,000 hours to get there. I read this in book after book, on website after website. My mental experience reading all of this stuff was like, no, I don't have time. I don't have 10,000 hours. I am never going to be able to learn anything new, ever again. But that's not true. So 10,000 hours, just to give you a rough order of magnitude, is a full-time job for 5 years. That's a long time. We've all had the experience of learning something new, and it didn't take us anywhere close to that amount of time, right? So what's up? There's something kind of funky going on here. What the research says and what we expect don't match up. Here's the wrinkle I found. The 10,000-hour rule came out of studies of expert-level performance. There's a professor at Florida State University named K. Anders Ericsson. He's the originator of the 10,000-hour rule. Where that came from is, he studied professional athletes, world-class musicians, chess grandmasters, all these ultra-competitive folks in ultra-high-performing fields. He tried to figure out how long it takes to get to the top of those fields. What he found is, the more deliberate practice these individuals spent on the elements of what they do, the better they got. The folks at the tippy top of their fields put in around 10,000 hours of practice. Now we talked about the game of telephone earlier. Here's what happened. An author by the name of Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book in 2007 called Outliers, The Story of Success. The central piece of that book was the 10,000-hour rule. Practice a lot. Practice well, and you will reach the top of your field. The message was that Dr. Ericsson was actually saying it takes 10,000 hours to get to the top of an ultra-competitive field in a very narrow subject. But here's what happened. Ever since Outliers came out, it shot to the top of bestseller lists, staying there for 3 solid months. All of a sudden, the 10,000-hour rule was everywhere, and a society-wide game of telephone began. The message that it takes 10,000 hours to reach the top of an ultra-competitive field became, it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. which then became it takes 10,000 hours to become good at something, which eventually became it takes 10,000 hours to learn something. But that last statement, that it takes 10,000 hours to learn something, is not true. It's not true. What the research actually says, I spent a lot of time at the CSU library in the cognitive psychology stacks because I'm a geek. When you actually look at the studies of skill acquisition, you see a pattern repeated over and over. Researchers give participants a task, something physical or mental, and time them to measure improvement. At the start, participants are slow and inefficient, but with a little bit of practice, they get better and better, and that early improvement is really fast. What's more important is that for skills we want to learn, we don't care about time so much. We care about how good we are. So if you flip performance time to how good you are, the graph looks like this famous learning curve. At the beginning, you're grossly incompetent, and you know it. But with a little bit of practice, you get really good, really fast. That early improvement is steep. Then you hit a plateau, and it takes more time to improve further. So my question is, how long does it take to go from grossly incompetent to reasonably good? Here's what my research says: 20 hours. That's it. You can go from knowing nothing about a skill to being reasonably good at it in just 20 hours. Want to learn a language? Want to learn how to draw? Want to learn how to juggle flaming chainsaws? If you put 20 hours of focused, deliberate practice into something, you'll be astounded at how good you can become. 20 hours is doable. That's about 45 minutes a day for a month, even with some skip days. Now there's a method to this. You can't just fiddle around for 20 hours and expect massive improvements. You need to practice intelligently and efficiently. Here's the method, and it applies to anything. First, deconstruct the skill. Decide exactly what you want to be able to do when you're done. Then break the skill into smaller pieces. The more you break it down, the more you can practice the most important parts first. Second, learn enough to self-correct. Get 3 to 5 resources to learn from, but don't use learning as a way to procrastinate. Third, remove barriers to practice. Get rid of distractions like TV and the internet. Fourth, pre-commit to practicing for at least 20 hours to overcome the frustration barrier of feeling stupid at the beginning. That's it. It's not rocket science. 4 simple steps you can use to learn anything. Now let's talk about this in practice. One of the things I've wanted to learn is how to play the ukulele. So I bought one and decided to put 20 hours into learning how to play. At first, it was all about getting the tools ready and figuring out basic things like tuning. Then, I realized that most songs use only 4 or 5 chords. That's it. So I learned 4 basic chords and practiced a song medley by Axis of Awesome, which shows how most pop songs can be played with just 4 chords: G, D, M, and C. Now after 20 hours of practice, I'm ready to play it for you. And with that, I've just completed my 20th hour of practice. So the big lesson? The major barrier to learning something new isn't intellectual. It's emotional. Feeling stupid is uncomfortable. But if you put in 20 hours of practice, you can learn almost anything. What do you want to learn?